really my honor to be with you all today. Thank you for being here and allowing me a few moments to present Radhanath Swami. Just would like to honor all the fathers who are here today. It's a special day, and my own father who's in the audience, Radhanath Swami's father, who he just was fortunate to have some time with. And also I'd like to honor all the mothers, because it's not their day today, and certainly this wouldn't all be possible without them, and all of you as caregivers as well. I'm a psychiatrist, I'm a caregiver, and mostly these days I'm finding I'm a student. I somehow ended up in a search for myself and a desire to become more conscious of who I am. And I was fortunate to run into some of Radhanath Swami's students who really helped me sort of get a clear image of I guess, who I am or who I would like to be, get more in touch with myself. I eventually, through them, also got to meet Radhanath Swami, which has been a great honor and pleasure. I'll just give a shout out to my friend Peter, who is here today, who also was one of the first people who got me in touch with Radhanath Swami when he said, did you know S1 is in the building? And I said, S1? He said, oh yes, number one Swami, S1 is in the building. And he forever is S1 in my heart as well. Could I have a slide? Is there a slide to go up or no? One of Radhanath Swami's students, Gauravani Buchwald, was sharing with me recently sort of the concept of, I don't know if he revived it, but he brought to me an 1800s word that maybe he's trying to make bring back to life again, called munificence. So what is munificence? Munificence means to give bountifully, to just be ever giving. He gave the example of an avocado tree. An avocado tree just produces tremendous amounts of avocado fruit. There's no way one could keep it all to themselves. It wouldn't be healthy for oneself, it wouldn't be healthy for the tree. So you just have to give it away. It's the only way to deal with that. There are many ways, but I guess that's the one way to deal with it. And my experience of Radhanath Swami, whether he's with a crowd of 5,000 people, whether he's talking to a small child, is he is munificent. He gives of himself, a sense of who he is, and it really shines just a shining light of an example of who he'd like to be. I was fortunate to be with S1 at the Flower Festival this past year, where through one of his thoughts, he created this wonderful place really to show devotion and care for all those who would attend, where 2,000 pounds of flower petals were dumped on all of us. This is, and then you can see it's just so present at just with every look. He has made this presence known with, or these thoughts. He's been able to develop these thoughts into actually actions through his examples, through Bhaktivedanta Hospital, the Barsana eye camp that we heard a little bit about earlier. His inspiration has led to over 300,000 children being fed on a daily basis in the Mumbai area, and over 1 million children being fed throughout India. Yeah, thank you. And if I could have the next slide. Two of his students who have been my teachers shared this Waldo Emerson quote with me, Hari Prasad and Radhanath. I'm very grateful to them. And the quote I'd like to share with you is, sow a thought and you reap an action. Sow an act and you reap a habit. Sow a habit and you reap a character. Sow a character and you reap a destiny. And I'm grateful for the thoughts that Radhanath Swami has helped to sow in me. And I hope you all are a fertile field today to be able to receive some of these thoughts that he will share with us today. Thank you, and please welcome His Holiness Radhanath Swami, S1.
His Holiness Radhanath Swami will speak for about 20 minutes, and then we're going to have about 15, 20 minutes of question and answers. Thank you.
Jnantimidandasya Jnananjanachalakaya chakshurun milidham jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschadhyadeshatharine Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vashadi Gaur Bhakta Brinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. It is truly an honor and pleasure to be with all of you today. Thank you for being here. This conference really is special and, in my estimation, quite historical. Because medicine is a lot like religion. There's a lot of fundamentalism. Just as so many spiritual paths that are trying to bring people to spiritual health claim that they are the only way and that everyone else is dangerous. The same thing is there with various healthcare schools. That this is the way and all other ways are either nuclear poison, or other ways are superstition, or other ways are useless. But today, practitioners from allopathy, Ayurveda, naturopathy, homeopathy have all come together to appreciate the value, the contribution of each other. And along with that, practically everyone who has spoken and everyone has come has a spiritual path and sharing their conceptions of spirituality, sharing their conceptions of God. So what's happening today in this conference is spiritual paths, religions, and different medical fields have all come together to appreciate one another for the purpose of really healing people and healing the world. It's quite groundbreaking, quite revolutionary, and quite wonderful. And I thank you for making this happen. Our Bhaktivedanta Hospital recently went to Nepal after that devastating earthquake. Of course, there were so many killed and so many injured, mostly with orthopedic problems of broken limbs. But not only that, but people had family members killed. Sometimes their parents, sometimes their children, sometimes brothers, sisters, friends. And not only that, but so many had all their property destroyed. And I doubt if a single one of those persons had property insurance. If your house and your little shop is destroyed, you have nothing left in your life. So when our doctors and other volunteers went to Nepal, yes, they were giving inoculations for possible diseases. We had Ayurvedic doctors and homeopathic doctors and allopathic doctors, and they were putting casts on people and putting limbs back together. But what the people really appreciated the most was the spiritual care. Because more than broken limbs, there were broken hearts. There was starvation. Not only starvation of the belly, but starvation of the heart. And actual holistic healing is inclusive of the body and the mind and the soul. When people were reminded that your loved ones are not dead, they've passed on to another place. They're still living, and through your connection with God, you can keep a connection with them. And this was not just something to pacify. This was based on eternal spiritual truths. And when people actually cared about them, it actually helped to heal the body, the mind, and the soul. And most interesting thing about it, some of these people who were so grateful for what they were given, they wanted to help others. And I was called in America by some of our doctors when they came back to Mumbai that there were people who lost relatives, who lost all their property, but they were so grateful and happy for the opportunity to serve other people who were in the same situation. They were taking the doctors house to house or tent to tent. They were giving food to people that were hungry. They were chanting beautiful spiritual mantras to inspire people's heart and give them hope. What they were receiving, they were sharing with people who were suffering just like them. And that was such a joy. It gave such meaning and fulfillment in the darkest moment of their life. And these people from Bombay, they knew that they were going to be going back after leaving Nepal to their nice, comfortable apartments or homes. And they would have nice food, and their family was waiting for them. But the doctors and the volunteers told me that these people who learned the art of giving, they were in a very much happier state than the people from Bombay. What is healthcare? A very simple question. Why in the world does anybody want to be healthy? Do you ever ask that question? It's a really important question. The Brahma Sutras give the answer. Anandamayo Vyashat, which means every living being, whoever we are, whatever our race, whatever our color, whatever our sex, whatever our religion or irreligion, whatever our species, we all have something in common. We're looking for pleasure. We're looking for ananda or happiness. And why do we not like pain? Why do we not like disease? Simple. Because it interferes with our happiness. We're pleasure-seeking. We have physical health, then there's mental health, and there's also spiritual health. A person could be very, very fit physically, but extremely miserable due to a mental condition. That's not good health. Spirituality, when it is actually properly understood in a more universal conceptualization and then realization, is holistic. There's a beautiful verse in the Bhagavad Gita. When I first heard this verse, it really transformed my life. Because I saw so much disparity and so much conflict and so much judgmentalism and egoism among different people of different races and different religions and different nationalities and different species. But when I read this verse, I thought, that's it. The Sanskrit is Vidyavanaya Sampani Brahmani Gabihastini Suni Chaiva Swapakecha Pandita Samadarshana. What is knowledge? Now, in many ways, we are trained in our academic world that knowledge is how much data we can store in our brains and how much we could repeat, either through our actions or through our words. But the Bhagavad Gita tells that true knowledge, true wisdom, is based on one single principle: the ability to see every living being with equal vision. That is knowledge. If we can't see that, we are diseased by ignorance. Whether one is a high priest or whether one's a convict in prison, whether one is black or white or red or yellow or brown or male or female, whether one is a Hindu or a Muslim or a Jew or a Jain or a Christian or a Sikh or a Parsi or an agnostic or an atheist, whether one is rich or poor, whether one is a human or an elephant or a dog or a cat or a cow. Wherever there's life, it is sacred. The Bible tells the first and great commandment is to love God with all your mind, with all your heart, with all your strength and soul. And what's the natural expression of that love? That you will love your neighbor as yourself. Knowledge is to understand everyone is our neighbor. Wherever there's that Atma, that spirit, there is a person like you or me who loves their life and who is looking for pleasure and trying to avoid pain. You cannot love God without expressing it through compassion. The highest dharma of this world is compassion. And the Vedic literatures describe compassion paradukka dukhi. It's not just a theoretical concept. Real compassion is when another person's suffering is my suffering. Another person's happiness is my happiness. That's love. A mother, or Father's Day today, or father, if they love their child, the state of happiness or suffering of the child is theirs. In this book I wrote, The Journey Home, I told my mother and father that I'm going on a summer vacation to Europe and I'll be back in 2 months. And they didn't hear from me for a long time. 4 months later, I was 19 years old. They got a letter that I was all alone and I was hitchhiking to India. And I said, I know you want me to go back to college, but what greater education can there be than learning how all other people from all parts of the world are thinking and living, and their conceptions of God and their conceptions of each other? And I said, please don't worry about me. And it was postmarked Iran. They suffered. Why were they suffering? Because they loved me. Because they thought I must be suffering. They were worrying. When we actually understand how we're connected to the divine or to God, then we see every living being, not only see but experience. We are all one family. And we naturally will give honor and respect and care. When you water the root of the tree, that water naturally extends to every flower and twig and leaf of the tree, as you were explaining. Similarly, when we actually discover the love that's within ourselves, which is the nature of the eternal soul, the pleasure that all of us are seeking is love. If you have things could give some pleasure to the body and mind, but things can never give fulfillment to the heart. Only to love and to be loved can give us that true fulfillment. Human evolution is not how sophisticated our technology is. Human evolution is actually when we go from loving things and using people to get them to loving people and using things to express that love. The disease of the world is a disconnection from that quality that is our own true nature. Lord Chaitanya was a great avatar. In India, he's considered a great incarnation of Krishna. And there are many books about him. But one little story is he was traveling and he came to a place in South India where a desperate man named Vasudev came before him. He had the last stages of leprosy. His entire body was completely eaten by this disease, and there were living worms eating him away. Sri Chaitanya came to embrace him. And Vasudeva said, no, no, don't touch me. There's all pusses and it's infectious and don't touch me. But he reached over and embraced him and squeezed him to his body. And instantly, Vasudeva was healed. His body was beautiful and perfectly healthy. Now you would think someone like that would be really happy. He was not happy. The reason? He was thinking, Vasudeva, now that I've been cured by you so miraculously, everybody knows I've had leprosy for so long. Now everyone's going to be praising me and honoring me because a great miracle has done to me. I'll become arrogant. Being cured will create a great disease to my ego. I'll think I'm better than you. You were never cured like this. That was his thinking. He was seeing that health is not just the body, but it's a state of consciousness. And then Sri Chaitanya told him, just chant these beautiful mantras to put you in tone, to connect you with the frequency of the love of your soul, your Atma. And be in a spirit of serving others. Whatever you have received, as it has been explained by so many wonderful speakers today, whatever grace we tune into and receive, be an instrument of that grace with real concern for the welfare of others. And then your ego will never be a problem. You will be in perfect health. I like to tell a story, the Redwood Tree. In California, Northern California, I was in one forest of redwood trees, and I heard from a park ranger the underground secret of the redwood tree. Now, I'm a Swami for the last many, many decades, but still, I was a teenager in the 1960s, and I have an attraction for underground secrets. So I listened very carefully. The underground secret of the redwood tree. These trees, some of them are 1,000 years old. A couple of them were 2,000 years old. And their roots are not so deep. And in that area, there has been over 1,000 years, countless massive earthquakes, storms, blizzards, and they're on mountainous soil that's very loose. How do they survive the storms of life? The roots of the redwood trees grow outward, and as soon as two trees' roots come close to each other, they embrace. They actually wrap around each other and form a permanent bond. In this way, every tree in the forest is directly or indirectly giving support to every other tree. The earthquakes, the storms, when they come, they're all united. United, they stand. And not only do they stand, they keep growing higher and higher and higher and higher and larger and larger. Even when there's forest fires, they keep growing. Unity is their strength. Nature is teaching us that the real strength that we all have is in our compassion for each other. You see, the redwood trees, if their branches interlock, it's not going to help too much. It has to be the roots. What is our roots? The roots of our consciousness is really the affection of our hearts. At our Bhaktivedanta Hospital, this is the singular principle, that we want people to be happy, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Yoga means union of the body and the mind with the soul, and then the soul with God. And when that is established, then we're naturally united with all other living beings in a spirit of compassion and with nature. We don't have environmental, ecological problems in this world. We have a spiritual problem. We don't respect Mother Earth. We're trying to exploit for our own selfish purpose, and that comes from a disconnection with our true self. So with this principle, Bhaktivedanta Hospital has been formed, and our Dr. Dwarkadish spoke a little about it. We have most all of the main branches of allopathy, but we have a whole wing for Ayurveda. We have a wing for homeopathy. We have a wing for naturopathy. We have a wing for yoga cure. We have a wing for acupuncture. And they're all working together. One of my friends, he was a very, very famous athlete. And when he was doing his sports, he punctured his lung decades ago. And he was getting massive chest pains for about 15 years. And he was going to top specialists, he told me, in America, in Australia, and in Europe. And they were all giving him different medicines and therapies for his lung puncture. But he said, but still, from time to time, I get these crippling pains. None of it is working. He said, I heard at your hospital you have an Ayurvedic wing. Can I go there? Because allopathy's not working. I said, sure, come. So he came. And this doctor felt his pulse and said, your lungs are fine. Your heart, there's something wrong with your heart. He said, impossible. All these specialists, they all say it's my lungs. He said, no, let's do angiogram. 4 of his arteries were totally blocked. So what did they do? They called a heart specialist, and he had open heart surgery. And after that, he's fine. He's doing really good. He's traveling around the world, and he hasn't had another pain in his chest. So Ayurveda and allopathy work together because of their mutual respect for each other. And because it wasn't about my religion or my path of medicine, it was about, do we really care about people? Self-realization brings about a compassion that transcends so many of the boundaries and diseases of this world. As was said, one thing we know for sure for any child that's born is 100% they're going to die. It's totally inevitable. We may ask, why is it made like that? But as some of our wonderful speakers have explained, when people understand the true source of life, who I am, a sacred part of God, full of love. One of my dearest friends is a lady, and she was dying of cancer, and she was in the last stages of her life. She couldn't get up. Her husband had to clean her excrement. She was a very dynamic, independent woman her whole life who loved to get things done. And she said, "Look at me now, I can't do anything." But then she smiled and said, "But even in my condition now, I have unlimited relevance and significance because God loves me." She calls God Krishna. She said, "Because I'm loved." And nothing in this world can take that away from me, not even death. And then she smiled even bigger and said, "But I can't think myself better than anyone else because God loves everyone." When we understand the love that we receive, we can actually understand the love that everyone is receiving. It's a question of how we're willing to receive it. When we tune into the frequency of that higher power, of grace, of compassion, and when we actually become an instrument of that grace, we learn how to truly honor and respect and love everyone and really make a difference. So much of healthcare is about money. Money should be used for the purpose of serving. It's not that we should serve for the purpose of money. The spirit of these virtues is so much what is permeating this conference. And I'm so grateful to be here. And I'm so grateful to all of you for all that you're sharing with the world. Thank you very much.
We'd like to open up the floor to questions. We have a traveling microphone, so please feel free to raise your hand. And we have somebody walking around to the right. If you're, and if you have a question which you are a little bit shy, you can write it down and then give it to our witness.
I have a very simple question. Many experts tell us we have less than 10 years to get our act together, or we will be our own worst enemy, and we will self-destruct. So my simple question is, what are your thoughts about how we are going to create world peace?
There's a sign outside quoting Mahatma Gandhi where he spoke that we really should try to be the change we want to see in the world. And every one of us can do that, however big or small. In the eyes of God, even the smallest thing done with sincerity has unlimited proportions. So according to our capacity, and when people who have that will to be the change come together, like in conferences like this, to actually share their energies, then it gives so much more power and strength. unless we clean our own hearts from arrogance and greed and envy and selfish passions and angers, then we can't really make that type of difference in the world. In other words, we need to become not only physically healthy, but emotionally and spiritually healthy. That's how we can make a change in the world. And then be activists. It's natural to be an activist if you connect with that compassionate spirit that is within all of us. And then, even with all of our differences, when we unite on that common essential purpose of being instruments of compassion, we could make a difference in the world. And it could be miraculous. And in many ways, sometimes it takes almost impossible darkness and almost impossible situations that are looming over us for us to really take it seriously. So in that sense, the condition of the world today, we can take it as an opportunity, not get depressed by it, but become enlivened that we can come together. Does that answer your question?
Yes, absolutely. Thank you. I just think about the role we have of education, though, and I don't think we're naturally given tribal love and to achieve unconditional global love. I think is an educational process that we haven't taken on for ourselves, and I think that's the next step. We have to do it together. But I think your answer is marvelous. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Maharaj, it is my honor to be in your presence. As always, thank you.
Thank you.
You talked about ego. My question is, I'm only aware of my ego after I realize it's been out of control. I would like to know a very quick and easy way to identify when my ego is about to go out of control and push it in the other direction.
In other words, you want a quick cure for a chronic illness. I'm not speaking personally to you, I'm speaking generally. It takes time. If we want to make progress, we need enthusiasm. We need faith that we really can, by a grace and a power above ourselves, overcome these shortcomings. And we also require patience. Each doctor, in whatever field, if you give a therapy or a diet or a medicine, the patient needs enough faith that it might work. Otherwise, the patient's not going to take it. And the enthusiasm to do it, the enthusiasm to get better, otherwise they're not going to do it. And they have to have patience, because it's not after 1 or 2 pills or 1 or 2 therapies that they're all right all the time. Conferences like this are important, because when we share our condition with common thinking people and with enlightened people, then we get great hope. So our spiritual path, in our tradition, there's 3 principles. satsang, sadhana, and sadachar. Satsang means to be with people who really inspire us and give us faith that we can get better and we can make a difference. And they also give us a way to do it. And sadhana means to do it. That means we do our yoga practice, we do our prayer, we do our chanting. We put some quality time aside to actually make that inner connection. Because really what spiritual life is, it's not about negation. It's about filling ourselves with such an abundance of grace, of positive energy, that gives us the power to overcome all negativity. That's sadhana. And sadachar means we get the inspiration and the direction from enlightened people and enlightened books. We actually have a spiritual practice to make that inner connection with our own souls and with God. And then sadachar. That means with that strength, we have to apply it according to our capacity. Sadachar means character, integrity. We can all live with integrity if we choose to do so. But the strength we give each other and the strength that we get from within ourselves is required in order to actually live our daily lives with character. Does that answer your question? Yes, please.
Hi, Swami. I haven't seen you in 3 years, and it's one of the greatest experiences of my life. Because you are really, I was in Kripalu, and we were doing a meditation, and they said, who is your greatest teacher? And I picked you, I swear. And I said, Swami, Radhanath Swami. And they said, what would he say to do? And I was trying to think of what you would say, but I'm not that smart. But my question is, how do you find your own spirituality and find God in your life? Because I've tried through so many different spiritual paths and so many religions and so many different things, and it doesn't seem like anything's worked so far to the extent that needs to, I guess.
Seek and we shall find. The first thing is that we're sincere. And by that sincerity, by God's grace, we're directed to people who actually can help to enlighten us. And then we have to be willing to open our hearts to receive, as it was explained by a previous wonderful speaker, we begin by our own efforts to make positive changes on a spiritual path, on a moral path, and gradually transformation takes place. There's always infinite hope for everyone. Because we are all eternal, loving parts of the Supreme. It's just reconnecting. Is there one more question?
I would like to know if it might be possible to institute in all hospitals in the United States the model you are carrying in India, where we have a little bit of everything to help the human heal completely. The homeopath, the Ayurvedic. Is it possible to make all the hospitals here a solid foundation, a solid part of their healing process? Do you think it's possible? If so, how?
I believe it is possible. It may not be the way we're doing it, but the spirit and the principle is possible. When we recognize our own unity, and when we really deeply care, individually and collectively, we really care about people. We want them to be happy. And that means physically, emotionally, and spiritually. When we connect to the frequency of grace, there's a beautiful, compassionate, loving power that can flow through us that really can perform miracles. And that's an eternal truth for all of us. Thank you very much.